Weather Words with Frank Ward is a production of The Reporter, Delaware County's leading news source. This episode of Weather Words with Frank Ward is sponsored by Klinger Power Sports on West Street in Walton, your one-stop shop for outdoor recreational vehicles. Klinger services all recreational vehicles it sells. Stop in today and see how Klingers can help you enjoy the great outdoors in comfort and in style.
Good day to you. This is Martin Luther King Day the 17th. And the last time I spoke to you, it actually turned out to be a real nice day. Believe it or not, we got to 41 degrees on this past Thursday. That's only 20 degrees above normal. I mean, with the way this year's going, that doesn't surprise me at all. What it did do was melt all the snow, but it didn't touch the ice on the driveways. That night it went below freezing, so guess what? Whatever melted made the ice even slipperier. Oh well. The big thing I told about on Thursday was that there was going to be a wind chill warning and things for Friday. Well, we got the wind chill warning. And what happened, the temperature dropped. The high temperature of the day is when I got up on Friday morning. And then all day long, it simply just fell. Okay. Believe it or not, we went from 41 degrees down to below zero by the time this was all done. In fact, waking up on Saturday morning, it was still 8 below zero at 8 o'clock in the morning. Believe it or not, it was still below zero at noontime on Saturday. Now, just to give you an idea, at the 8 below, a 5-mile-an-hour wind made it feel like minus 15. A 10-mile-an-hour wind made it feel like minus 34. And some of the winds that we had were more than 10 miles an hour. So you stepped outside, and it was that type of day where you maybe could spend 15 or 20 minutes outside, and then you had to come in and warm up before you did your next chore, whatever it was going to be. And I found that out. Do the cows, run inside, warm up, go out and go to chickens, come back, warm up. Bring in firewood, then warm up. I mean, it was all those things that you normally don't have to do. You do them all at once. You couldn't. It was miserable. Believe it or not, on Saturday, our high temperature was 7 degrees. Right after about 2 o'clock, it just plunged. By 6 o'clock on Saturday evening, it was 1 degree out there. And I said, this is going to get colder than they said. Well, believe it or not, it got to minus 10, which that wasn't supposed to be the cold night, but guess what? It was. So you wake up at minus 10. This is where you find out, are your pipes going to freeze or not? I mean, people that have those kind of pipes had to hopefully let the water running a little bit, because running water doesn't freeze. Okay, I don't have that kind of problem here. I solved all those years ago by making sure everything's deep underground or everything has something on it. But it was cold. And we were expecting this. Well, what happened is the clouds started rolling in about 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Sunday. The temperature actually all warmed up and we got into the mid-20s. It wasn't doing anything at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock. At 9:30, when I turned the light on and went to put 2 more logs on my wood-burning stove, I turned the back light on and said, uh-oh. There it is. And it was the kind of snow with small flakes. The small flakes means it's going to hang around for a while, and it was coming down pretty heavy. So when I get up this morning, what do we have hanging around? It was 6.2 inches. And believe it or not, it's the first real snow we've had this entire winter. Because the old adage is 10 inches of snow equals 1 inch of rain. Well, 6 inches of snow equaled 0.6. So guess what? It's real snow. But then what it did, it turned to sleet with snow. Right at the moment as I'm sitting here, it's only 34 degrees, but it's raining on us. That's going to turn back to snow. And then the bad thing about all this, all that soggy stuff on top, it's going below freezing again tonight. So guess what happens to it? You're going to step out tomorrow and hear your foot go crunch, then slip down into the snow underneath, and the original ice is still under all of that, okay? Plowing was interesting. We didn't plow the driveway down completely because my driveway down completely looked like a glacier from the last ice age. So we left a little snow on it, so when it freezes, we'll have some traction tomorrow morning. This is going to be one of those winters, I think, where we're going to keep going back and forth and back and forth. If you don't believe me, pull into any parking lot about right now, and the potholes have already started, and they're going to get worse. Nothing's worse than freeze-thaw for the road surfaces around here. There's going to be a lot of repair this coming spring. Well, anyway, this is going to stop, and it's going to stay okay for tomorrow. And then a mixed bag of, I'm going to call it garbage, is going to fall out of the sky on Wednesday. But when that leaves, it's going to drag down another Arctic air mass over us. And one of the places I looked actually said Thursday night's temperatures could be minus teens. You know what? I'm tired of this already. We generally get about 6 negative temperatures during the winter. Well, if we get minus anything Thursday, and it's also going to be minus something on Friday night, we'll reach the 6 we're supposed to get. And there's still a whole lot of winter left to go. Sometimes we get some really nasty cold weather in February. So we'll have to see what Mother Nature gives us. And then, believe it or not, come Saturday, we could get another one of these. So make sure you push the snow out of the way as far as you can, because you put some minuses in there, and whatever pile you have is now going to be a solid block of whatever. So you're going to have to find a place to put it. And that's sort of what's going to be happening. I mean, hopefully I'll see you on Thursday once again as we're freezing, waiting for this bitter cold air to get to us, and I'll update you on what's happening. But believe it or not, down on the coastline, my sister called from Connecticut. They're getting 50-mile-an-hour winds. Up in Massachusetts, it's 70-mile-an-hour winds. And down there, believe it or not, it's raining. They're not worried about what's falling out of the sky. They're worrying about the wind knocking over all those great big trees on all those estates, knocking down all the power lines and giving you no electricity. You know what? As long as we have some power up here, we're in pretty good shape. You lose power, we have a different problem. So let's hope we keep our electricity and just stay warm. Okay, so much for that. I understood there's some people out there that were a little upset with some of the things that I've said so far about climate change. One of them said that I don't recognize climate change. That person hasn't been listening since I started this, because I started talking about climate change in my very first broadcast from here. And yes, it's happening. I think they were upset because I said whether we were here or not, we were going to get warmer anyway. And that seemed to infuriate one particular person. Okay, well, guess what? Check any earth scientist, check any astronomer, and ask what's happening to the planet. And they're going to say it's going to continue to get warmer. Why? There's a wobble in our orbit that's been there forever. The tilt of our planet, which right now is about 23.5 degrees, varies over time from a little more than 21 to 24. All that changes temperature. And it isn't changing it during a human lifetime. It's just changing it on an Earth cycle. And then the other thing is, right now our orbit around the sun is almost circular. There's only 3 million miles difference between when we're closest and when we're farthest from the sun. That stretches over time. And when all those things come together, then we have an ice age. But before that, we warm up. And then people say, well, it's raining more than it's ever rained. Yes, it has, because warmer air holds more moisture. It always rains more and then eventually snows more at the beginning of an ice age. Where do you think all that snow comes from to build all those glaciers? All those glaciers right now are melting, absolutely. They're supposed to. There was a thing on this morning, I should have told people, watch at 8 o'clock on the Discovery Channel about the rising ocean levels and why. Because guess what? They were saying exactly what I'm saying right now, that they're going to continue to rise. Have we added to it? Yes. Okay? It's warming faster than we thought, but it's still warming, and it's going to continue to warm. I said later this year, and when the weather gets better, we were going to talk about solar panels. We're going to talk about wind energy. We're going to talk about all the things that, if we use them wisely and put them in the right place, might solve part of our problem. But do understand, with everything that looks good on paper, there's also a backwards thing that isn't so good. And I'm going to put them both out so everyone can finally sit and understand what's really going on. So pay attention as things continue to go on, but also don't just partially read something and get upset and think I don't know what I'm talking about. Because one of the things I always said to my students way back when was, I'll get back to you with the right answer tomorrow if I didn't know the answer. I don't make things up. I do have facts, okay? And one of the kids said to me, and this was 20 years ago, when we put on the board, good things we've done, bad things we've done, green energy, and this was at the beginning of this whole thing. When we got all done and the kids looked at it, he said to me, do you think we're past the point of no return? And this was 20 years ago. And my answer was simple. I hope not. And I certainly hope not, okay? But the planet's going to do what it's going to do. Will we affect it? Yes. But you might be surprised later on how we're affecting it. Other than that, I will continue to put out the science, because that's what I do. And thank you very much, and please read everything and consider before you reply. Thank you.
Shop Clingers today.